your name?
My name is Soko. Nice to meet you.
What is your ideal type?
I don't have like a specific type, but I am really attracted to tall, dark chocolate guys. But I do like also like light skin, like mixed race guys too. I am very attracted to smart guys. To be honest with you, in the past, I have been dated like guys looks like LeBron James.
What is your Instagram ID?
SOKOPEARL. Soko Pearl.
So, what is your plan?
My plan for
Your plan for dating?
like it's complicated,
It's
Right.
complicated.
right? So there's an idea where I don't just go home. I just stay here somehow.
Do you have a plan to stay here?
I could see myself living here.
Why?
What do you mean why? Part of planning our future together, right? I mean, the cost of living is lower.
Do you want to stay here for good?
Okay, so apparently there's been a new documentary released about the Passport Bros. I guess you could call it a documentary. It's about 47 minutes long. And it was posted by CNA Insider. Now, I'm not sure exactly what CNA stands for, but I guess it kind of probably doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to use a couple of little portions of the video in order to report on the video. So basically this falls under fair use. But I'm not going to use much of the video because I really hate it when these losers, they try to give you copyright strikes and stuff. And, and then you have to, submit claims to YouTube and then you got to fight back and all that. It's a pain in the ass. So I'm not going to really post much of their video. I'm just going to use small parts of it. So they talk about, the introduction. Basically, there's a chapter breakdown that was done by AI. So it starts with an introduction and it goes on to what is a passport bro. So I'll start with what is a passport bro. You can watch this yourself. You can watch the full thing yourself, but I'm just gonna go through a couple of the little chapters.
Bros.
A passport bro is a recent term that's been very popularized recently. It's basically where a man traditionally from the West moves and migrates to another country like in Latin America or in Southeast Asia to pursue women they see as more feminine, right?
Okay, so first of all, you already know my stance on this issue. A passport bro is a black male who leaves the plantation, i.e. the United States or the West, and he goes seeking more femininity or a wife or a woman or whatever it is abroad. Now, typically this is going to be going to South America or it's going to be going to Southeast Asia or parts of Asia. So the thing that bothers me is these documentaries, they always find these people to report on this stuff, and these people don't seem to understand that the very term passport bro is speaking about black males, because what ultimately happened was it was black females on TikTok who were insulting and making fun of black males specifically. Keep in mind, white men have traveled to Asia and South America for a very, very, very long time. They've been doing this. And the reality is the black males didn't really have much of a reason to do it because black women weren't that bad over that much time. Like if you're talking about like the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was really white men doing this. No time during that entire period did the word passport bro ever come up. And there's a reason for that. It's because bros, usually you're referring to black males. You're not referring to white males. White men did it, Japan, China, they would go to South Korea, they'd go to the Philippines, they go all to these places. Nobody ever came up with the term passport bros. So the reality is, this is a relatively new term, and it specifically applies to black males. Now, white males are called passport joes. They had always called these guys joes because most of their traveling was done in the military. So they were called G.I. Joe and this, that, and the other, but they were called the passport joes. Then you got these Korean guys, these Japanese guys. They're going down to Southeast Asia because they're trying to find women, because the problem is the women in their country refuse to give them traditional marriages. Those are the passport chose. Now, a lot of these women try to insult the men, and they try to, accuse them of crimes and stuff. And they try to say, oh, these guys are human trafficking women and all this. No. Those are called the transport bros. They're called the transport bros because they transport hoes. They have absolutely nothing to do with the passport bros. The passport bros are just using their passports. So I feel it's important to understand definitions. So right there, I have a little bit of problem with what he's saying, but I'm not going to harp on that. I'm going to keep going. So now it goes on to a mismatch in dating expectations in the West.
Trend. Well, the popularity of passport bros coincides with the decline of romantic relationships in some Western countries, particularly in the United States.
Okay, so right there, the decline of romance. So there have been numerous news articles. I'm not gonna like harp on them because we've already talked about this. But there's been numerous news articles where women have openly came out and said that they use men for dates just so that they could eat, or they use men to go out to places they normally wouldn't be able to go to, wouldn't be able to afford. They use men to take them out to places that they just want to go. And most men have experienced this because they'll take women out on dates, and they think that this is going somewhere, only for a woman to deny them any further romantic involvement. So the men basically pull back and say, you know what? I'm not wasting money on you, because men ultimately see dating as an investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of money. So ultimately, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with a pool of women who are basically, in many cases, using men, and this is by their own admission, using men for dates, using men to eat. Some of them have used men for a place to live, like they'll crash on their couch. Now, we have no idea in many of those cases exactly, what kind of payment they offered. But the reality is, it's like these women have openly stated this. So the men are not finding it very romantic, and they're leaving. They're going to South America. They're going to parts of Asia. And one thing that, is important is to recognize the economy and the economics of the situation. When you go to these other countries and you're coming from America, your money is worth so much more that it makes it easier to dominate in those other people's economies. Like when you go into their stores, they have all their stuff in their stores. There's nothing you can't afford in their stores simply because you make so much more money. The average Filipino only makes less than $10,000 a year. The average Thai makes less than $10,000 a year. The average person living in Bali makes less than $10,000 a year. There's a large number of countries where the average person is making less than $10,000 a year. So when somebody like us, when we go over to those countries and we're making 75, 80, 90, 100,000, 150, some of us even make way more than that. And we go over to those countries, we're able to literally dominate their entire economy. We're able to stay in their nice hotels, their nice resorts. We're able to stay in their nice condos. We're able to buy whatever we want. We're able to party and drink and do whatever we want, especially the people who are digital nomads, the people who have jobs where they can go over there. When those people have jobs that they can go over there, it's like an all expense paid vacation, because the reality is you're in a perfect place, the great weather, the women are beautiful, and you're getting a paycheck while you're there. So the reality is it's so much better. It's like if you want to go on a date, taking a chick out on a date might take maybe $20, $30 or whatever. Meanwhile, if you're here in America, the women specifically refuse to go to certain places. Like they'll say, oh yeah, well, I refuse to let you take me to the Cheesecake Factory, or I refuse to let you take me to something that's not relatively super expensive, like Benihana or something like that. They act like you have to spend over $100 or $150 to take them out somewhere. It's like, yeah, that's not happening. Or at least if it does happen, it might be for something like your birthday. It's not happening regularly. But yeah, the men are out. They just don't feel that it's very romantic. So they're saying, you know what, why deal with this? It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my energy. And that's just what it's come down to. So let's see, a growing gender divide between young men and women. So now you get this typical feminist right here to try to explain what's going wrong. And let's see what she has to say.
Are changing.
One change is reflected in how the genders view society. Young women in the US have become increasingly liberal, while men trended slightly more conservative. This divide is especially stark after 2017.
Liberalism can only really exist in a place that has already been settled and a place that is already safe. Women here in America, it reminds me of Batman when he fought against Bane, and Bane catches Batman throwing a punch at him. And he's like, peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you. Men settled this land. Men keep this land peaceful. Men build. And the women just take advantage of it. All they do is they sit back and they just take advantage of it. They don't build anything. And they're not the ones settling the land. They're not the ones bringing peace to it. So the thing about it is men created this peace, and now the women just kick back, relax, and they enjoy it. Meanwhile, if you go and look at any of these developing nations or any of these countries, especially the ones at war, yeah, the women have pretty much no choice but to follow the men's lead, simply because they don't have a choice. It's like your only option is running the risk of being invaded and pillaged by an enemy. So the reality is, yes, we've made a peaceful place here, and the women feel that they don't need the men. And that's what it really comes down to. They think that they can just take out student loans, they can go get these advanced degrees and whatnot that are, for the most part, worthless, especially liberal arts PhDs. And they can walk around, they have a tag name, oh yeah, you got to call me doctor. But the reality is, it's like, you know, they don't feel that they need the men. And if they don't feel that they need the men, then, you know, they'll collect their welfare checks and they'll collect public assistance on the side, and they'll never actually have to deal with any men. And given enough time, the men are like, yeah, well, you know what? You're a waste of time. And as the women age, they become basically invisible. So this whole thing about liberal versus conservatism, I would say that the men become more conservative because they're the ones that are working for everything. You know, I feel personally like they always talk about, oh, yeah, they should be teaching financial literacy in high school and college. I'm like, yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I personally think that the best way to teach financial literacy is to force these kids to get jobs. Once they get a job and they understand that the money that they've worked to earn is going to get taken from them in taxes, that causes them to start asking questions. Where are my tax dollars going? That causes them to start wondering, wait a minute, how are you paying for all these fucking illegal aliens to be here and spending money in Israel and Ukraine, and you're taking it out of my check? You know, automatically they start asking these questions. I personally think that's the best way to teach financial literacy. Get them a job as young as they can possibly get a job. But most of these women, you know, they're living on debt. They're living on credit cards. They're living on public assistance. Women own 2/3 of the $1.8 trillion in student loans. So the reality is a lot of what they're using to move forward is just debt, or it's owed. Like, they're not earning this. All right, let's go.
This period coincided with the Me Too movement, a social campaign to raise awareness of sexual assault and harassment against women.
All right, you know, it's funny because in this part they mention Harvey Weinstein and they talk about the Me Too movement. So basically what they're saying is that for all of the, specifically the women in Hollywood who had to suck their way up to the position that they got, or had to basically undress in order to get roles that they normally wouldn't have gotten, That's basically what the driving force in the Me Too movement, especially the conviction of Harvey Weinstein and whoever else got convicted by the Me Too movement. These people didn't rape anybody. These people basically gave you a choice. They say, hey, guess what? If you want this role and you want to be in this movie, you're going to have to finagle these nuts. That's what you're going to have to do. They basically gave them an option. Now, your option was to say no and leave. But these people said, no, I want to be the next Meryl Streep, or I want to be the next Uma Thurman or whatever. So they got down on their knees and they finagled them nuts. So the bottom line is, it's like this Me Too movement thing, yeah, it had its time, but for the most part, it's over. That believe all women, that's pretty much gone now. We've got enough video camera evidence to make it so that you won't. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Me Too went viral following the allegations of abuse by Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. The gender divide was widening and bled into romance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the gender divide, I basically consider the gender divide to be a war. I consider it to be a gender war. Basically, you have two different competing ideologies. The men basically believe that the women are supposed to be there to help them to build the future. But the women want to go their own way. They'd be like, oh, no, I can do better than you and blah, blah, blah. And, you can get on my dime. You can get on my time limit and you can build the future with me. The men aren't having it. So the men basically, they take their money, they take their ball, they go play elsewhere. And the problem is these women are finally realizing it's like, yeah, we can't survive and we can't really do anything without these men, because at the end of the day, the men are the builders. The men are the construction workers. The men are building the country. Even the most hardcore feminist, if her plumbing breaks down right now, guess who she's calling to fix it? She's calling some man to come fix it. If her satellite or DSL or her Fios goes out, guess who she's calling to fix it? It's a man. That's a man coming there, period. If something goes wrong with her house, chances are a man is the one pulling up to fix it, and she's going to pay him, and she ain't got nothing but a choice to pay this man. So the reality is they realize it's like, oh, shit, we got no choice but to, cater to these men. And some of them resent that, but that's their problem. That's the price they pay for not being the builders. If you can't build anything, then what's the point? It is what it is.
They're becoming very antagonized towards each other, especially on social media. Like, they'll say that all women are bad or all women are going downhill. There's no good women in America. They'll say these general statements like this. And I think those kind of narratives can just further divide people.
Well, the problem ultimately is that the general quality of the women, specifically in terms of marriage, the quality has gone down considerably. Not sure if the feminists understand this or not, but men really aren't interested in seeing women all tattooed up and having bull rings in their nose, and they're really not interested in that. They're not interested in women who don't have real hair. They're not interested in women who look like circus freaks. They're not really interested in that. So the only way to win is not to play. The only way to win is to simply just walk away from the situation, go elsewhere. And that's the whole spirit of the Passport Bros. The spirit is you get your passport and you go elsewhere and you engage elsewhere. Because the reality is, there's some people criticize, they're like, oh, well, why are you so worried about women and why are you so worried about... First of all, relationships, marriage, that's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For one thing, sex is part of that hierarchy of needs. Consistency of a relationship is part of that. So, yeah, the men have a need. They want to build a family. I look at our new vice president-elect, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a white man, and he married an Indian woman, and he's got 3 kids. Now, you have to ask yourself, would he have all of that if he had married a white woman? The answer is probably not. Not unless she was like a Mormon or something. Why is that? Well, because chances are she wouldn't have been indoctrinated to be a wife material. So they hate on him because he called women out and he said that they're leftovers and that they're aging cat ladies and this, that, and the other. But they don't ever talk about his actual marriage situation and how successful it actually is. They refuse to talk about those things because they know that if they started that kind of conversation, that it would end up pointing a finger back at them and accusing them of wrongdoing, or at least not being the best that they could possibly be. So it's a shame, but that's the reason. That's the bottom line. That's the reason why the men are leaving. That's the reason. So let's see, the next part, popular countries for passport bros. Now, as far as I'm concerned, South America, I am not too excited about. South America, a lot of those countries are developing countries. A lot of those countries are recovering narco states like Colombia and Nicaragua. Some of these countries like have had tremendous problems. Like even El Salvador, they had a lot of problems with gangs and crime, and then they decided, hey, let's lock them all up. And supposedly now, if you go to El Salvador, it's extremely safe. I haven't been to El Salvador. Maybe I'll go. I hear Nayib Bukele, he's got his money all in Bitcoin. He's got the country in Bitcoin and everything. And he decided to lock everybody up. So, maybe it's doing better. I don't know. But a lot of these countries, Peru, Chile, a lot of these countries have issues. Like every now and then you hear about passport bros going down there. You hear about these American tourists going down there and getting drugged. I have a problem with countries that don't make liberal use of the death penalty to deal with drugs. When you talk about Colombia, you talk about them using scopolamine to drug the tourists. Had this been Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, most of those countries execute people for having illegal drugs. Execute them. So the point is, I like going to countries where I feel safe. Like I don't have to worry about somebody kidnapping me because if they get caught, they're going to be executed. I like that. I don't have to worry about somebody drugging me and taking my wallet because if those people get caught, they're going to be executed. I like that. I don't have to worry about gunpoint robbery at 3 a.m. First of all, because these countries don't allow these people to have guns at all. And second of all, because if they tried to rob me, chances are they'd be caught and then they'd be in serious, serious trouble with the authorities. I just went to Bali and I went to Singapore. At no time was I worried at all about my safety. When I was in Singapore, you already know, Singapore don't play. Singapore will cane your ass. Like they put you in these cowboy chaps and your ass cheeks are hanging out and they whap, whap, whap. And they count down as they whapping you. And the thing about it is, people don't commit crimes there like that. Like when you go to Singapore, the place is beautiful, the place is neat, the place is tidy. It's a perfect authoritarian, totalitarian government. It's perfect. Everybody acts like they got common sense. You see here in New York, however, you got people getting pushed in front of the trains. You got homeless people going crazy. You just saw this Daniel Penny trial. Daniel Penny, this other dude, he choked him to death. Because now, by the way, I have a father who's older in age, and he decided that he was going to start concealed carrying a pistol because he was worried that somebody might try to, do something to him in his older age, like rob him or this, that, and other. So the reality is when you're dealing with these metropolitan cities, they've done their best to disarm the people. So when you see this Daniel Penny trial, you see somebody who has no weapon choke somebody to death because they felt that it was, I don't know if they intended to choke the other person to death, but the bottom line is it happened. Things like that, you shouldn't even have to worry about getting on a train and you got to worry about people doing shit around you. Everybody is supposed to get on the train, sit down, and just fucking ride the train. You're not supposed to be a Michael Jackson dancer on the fucking train. You're not supposed to be doing magic tricks. You're not supposed to be walking through the train begging for money or playing a motherfucking saxophone. That's not how it works. You're supposed to sit down, ride the train, get off the train. Now, it works that way when you go to China, when you go to Russia, when you go to Singapore, when you go to any of these other countries where they got these people locked down. But when you come here, shit is fucking crazy. You got to worry about robberies. You got to worry about pickpockets. You got to worry about stabbings. You got to worry about shootings. You got to worry about all this. Bottom line is, these other countries, they keep these people under lock and key. And when you go over there, you ain't got to worry about that. I can't say the same about South America because they have a lot of robberies. Brazil, they got people who rob you on mopeds. They pull up to you on a freaking moped, point a weapon at you, and say, yeah, give me all your money. Those are places I'm not going to go. It's just that simple. Like, there are some people who feel comfortable going down to those places. I don't feel comfortable going down to those places. If I go someplace, I expect there to be a totalitarian government that says, yeah, if you do anything to this tourist, your head's coming off. That's how I feel about it. So anyway, what do they say? Let's see.
On their website, the Worleys give suggestions of which countries are best suited for passport bros. Among their top
First of all, I see the Croatian flag there. I don't really feel comfortable going to Croatia as a black male. If I'm not mistaken, there was a killing of a black male who I believe was in an island. I believe it was a Greek island, and some Croat nationals or Serb nationals beat him to death. I don't feel comfortable with this. Now, they're saying it's a safe place and everything. I don't really feel comfortable with that one. As for Cambodia, no problem. Cambodia, the Philippines, those are perfect. The Philippines, they do have little issues here and there, but for the most part, violence against tourists is relatively low. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. Some of these Australians and some of these English people, they come there and they live there and everything, and these people get drunk all the time. They try to fight they get into fights and shit with the Thai or the Filipinos, and they get their asses handed to them. They get beaten nearly to death. As far as being a black male there, as long as you're not engaging in any violence or any illegal activity, you don't really have much to worry about. But a lot of these white men who come from these other countries, they get themselves into some shit and then they act like it's the country's fault. That's part of the reason why I don't consider them to be passport bros at all, and I never will give them that moniker. Those are the passport Joes. Okay,
recommendations, 4 Asian countries
Vietnam,
make the list. Cambodia, the Philippines,
Brazil. Okay, I haven't been to Vietnam yet. I haven't been to Cambodia yet. Now, I might consider going there soon. I don't know when, but I've seen so much in Southeast Asia. It's like I really don't have a strong desire to go to Vietnam or Cambodia. But someday I might go, because I've hit so many of those cities down there. I've hit so many of the major cities. Someday I might go. Brazil, they have some crazy off-the-hook crime down there. They've tried to clean it up, but it's just not clean enough for me. I'm sorry. And I know a lot of people going down there because they're looking for these Afro-Latinas and everything. It's I'm not interested in that, so have fun. Yeah, that's all good, but no. What?
Vietnam, and Thailand.
Okay, Thailand is definitely a great place for the passport. I would basically say Thailand, Philippines. I really can't say Indonesia because, again, the problem is it's the women there, unless you're Muslim and unless you specifically want a Muslim Asian woman, it's I can't really say Indonesia. I can't really say Bali. I really didn't see many hot women in Bali. Bali, it was the only women that were hot there were the ones that came there from somewhere else. There were very few. Philippines was definitely better. The women were younger. They were prettier. Thailand definitely probably rises to the top. I felt Thailand was more sophisticated as a city. They definitely had stronger health care, like where you can look around and there's, there's signs of strong healthcare everywhere. There's like clinics. There's what are those things? Pharmacies. It just looked like it was more sophisticated. It felt like it was more sophisticated. It felt like a richer country, definitely than the Philippines. It was definitely a richer country. Thailand, I definitely like. Philippines, I think the reason why most men choose the Philippines over Thailand is because the women in the Philippines are Christian mostly, and they speak English mostly. The Thai language is, it's a little harsh if you're a newcomer. And on top of that, the religion might put you off. You might not like the religion. Like, there are a lot of Buddhism and everything. Nothing wrong with Buddhism. I'm just saying that it might be easier for most men to go after Christian women or women who at least believe in Jesus Christ and the Bible. So that's just what it is.
If you're a guy looking for a woman that has traditional values, family values, you're going to find it in these areas.
And that whole thing about traditional values and family values, all that basically means is that the women have been indoctrinated to be wives. And what that means is that they're focused on taking care of their family. Now, some people could, she's just going to move in with you and she's going to work and send money back to her family. Yeah, that's fine. We really don't have a problem with that, because especially if she comes here and she works and she's sending back small amounts of money to her family, that's not a bad thing, because the money that she makes here will be more money than she's ever seen in her entire life. And that's assuming she just makes $30,000 a year doing some bullshit regular job. She might even make more money doing a better job. We don't really have a problem with that. So, bottom line is, it's like, yeah, those seem to be the best places. Those are like the best places the Passport Bros are going to go to. Okay, so the next chapter is what Passport Bros in the Philippines say. I'm going to skip that one. It says Asian women fight back against their depiction year. Okay, let's see what that says.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is an important day for everyone who owns Ethereum. My name is Vitalik Buterin, and
it's harmful, this passport bro movement that hold these beliefs, that women should be meek, subservient, and should tend to their needs.
Yes, and that's exactly right. So this modern day feminism doesn't seem to understand. This society is built and maintained by men. The way it works is the women are at home for the most part. Like, some of them have jobs, but they're at home. The men go out and work. They kill themselves at work. They run themselves to the bone. Then they come home. The women feed them. The women have the kids taken care of. The house is clean. The men come home. The women give him everything he needs. The woman gives him food, sex, massage, whatever it is. And then the very next day, that man gets back up to go back out to the world to keep building the world. And that's what it is. This is part of the reason why men die earlier than women. Men do dangerous, difficult, and dirty jobs. But these women want to think that that's not supposed to be their role. So what you have here is you have two competing ideologies. Now, I'm not necessarily saying either one is wrong. It's just that based on how the world got built, the male dominant ideology is the one that ultimately makes more sense, because the women didn't build this. We did. What the women did was they had more children in order to help us continue to build the world and maintain it. That's what they did. So the woman's job was basically subservient anyway, or it was basically secondary to what the men had planned. I don't see any women building any space stations or rockets or anything. I don't see them building shit. They don't build anything. They may help maintain it. They may help supervise it. But as far as building the stuff, I haven't seen. If I were to walk down right now with my camera and I go down to SpaceX and I look on their site randomly, I guarantee you I ain't going to see very many women building the rockets that SpaceX is shooting up into space. I guarantee it. If I were to go up to Any military contractor, if I were to go to Boeing, if I were to go to Airbus, I guarantee the vast majority of those people moving that steel and that aluminum around, I guarantee they're not women. Guaranteed. They may be supervising. They may be helping maintain, but they're not building. That's the point. So, bottom line is, it's a gender war. It's two competing ideologies, and one of them's got to go. So anyway, what's next?
Passport bro movement puts like kind of a racist and colonial dimension to this, because it kind of fulfills like their expectations that, you know, brown people should be servicing white people.
Okay, this has absolutely nothing to do with brown people servicing white people. But even if it did, the thing about it is, if you go to a lot of these developed nations, they're brown people who have a lot of money, and they're looking for the exact same thing. They're looking for somebody else to service them. This is not about racism. This is about classism. Some of these people are still trying to figure out how Donald Trump won the presidency in 2024. They're looking at the Republican Party. The Republican Party sucked in a multiracial voting bloc, and they still can't understand it. The reason why this happened is because there has been tremendous growth between rich and poor. In the gap between the rich and poor, there's been a huge growth. And the reality is, it's no longer really about racism, it's about classism. And they don't want to talk about that because it's not as easy as just talking about racism or misogyny or sexism. It's not as easy as just, going for the usual suspects. So the bottom line is, it's like she's talking about white men coming to her country to take advantage of the women. I'm talking about black men getting passports to go to other countries to meet these women. I'm not talking about the white men. And that's the reason why I hate it when they lump white men in with passport bros. Like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm not going to do that. All right, so the next part is called the dark side of passport bros movement. Hold on.
And brown countries should be at the service of white Western countries.
So, okay, let's go to the dark side.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is a significant day for everyone who holds XRP.
These people went underground until Bitcoin.
My name is Chris Larson.
Now they won't stop.
There's something romantic about falling in love with a foreigner. Two people brought together by destiny, despite distance and cultural differences.
If you say so.
At least, that was the dream of Joanna Ankler, a single mother of 3 in the Philippines.
Okay, you see, and this is the big problem, though. A lot of these developing nations, these men are popping off in these women, and they getting these women pregnant, and they reproducing like ants, and they're ruining these women, because when these Western men come there and they meet these women, they're not trying to hear about this single mama stuff. They're not trying to hear about that. I didn't fly 9,000 miles to meet some single moms. I could have stayed in Brooklyn or the Bronx and done that. So, that's part of the problem, but let's see what they have to say.
Joanna is looking for an AFAM. AFAM is an acronym for a foreigner around Manila, slang for a typically Western male. To many Filipinas, dating or marrying an AFAM is not an idea so foreign.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, a lot of these men, some of these men don't really care about, women who've had children in other relationships, especially if it's, with someone from her own country, because these men are going to whisk them away ultimately, and they're going to probably take them back to their country. Or these men are looking to move to this country and they're looking to retire there. Some of these men may not get bothered by that, especially some of these older men who've already had a relationship, because at that point, they really don't care. But these AFAMs, they're mostly talking about white men. They're talking about the ones coming from Australia. They're talking about the ones coming from the UK. I'm not talking about them. I just want to make that very clear. The show has lumped them in, and the documentary has lumped them in. I'm not talking about them.
Foreigner, even they walk wearing a slipper in an ordinary shirt, something like they attract, some ladies, their looks.
Well, you got to remember, first of all, Western foreign men were already taller than all of their men, because these guys are, the average height of these guys is like 5'5" or 5'0". So we're taller than their men. These women know that we're swinging huge snakes. And on top of that, we've got even bigger wallets. So they know that the AFAMs, or whatever they call, they know that when we come around there, it's like they know that we're the top dogs. So this is kind of like, what's the word? This is kind of like, it's basically we're dominating their economies. That's what it comes down to. When we go there, we've got the money. We've got the power. We got the money. It's like we're just regular tourists, but when we go there, we can buy anything we want. We can afford anything we want. Yes, that's a very attractive thing. It just is. So, cry about it.
I'm looking a foreigner. I'm looking that he is my best friend. Well, that can spend together, the last of our life.
Last year, Joanna met a Finnish man on a dating site. They'd been talking for nearly 2 months when he asked her to join him on a trip to Boracay, a resort island in central.
Now, one of the downsides, especially with a lot of these Western dudes, is when these dudes start talking to these women on these apps, a lot of these dudes have never even traveled before. Like, I personally know a dude. And I'll use this story, but I'm not going to say names. I personally know this dude. This dude was talking to a Filipina on one of those chat sites. I think it was Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I was talking to him. I was like, yeah, you really should, buy a ticket and go and meet her. Because if you're talking to her for this long, you might as well go meet her. Now, this guy is a single father with one daughter. And I really thought that he was going to go do it. And he was supposed to go in August, I believe. Sure enough, he chickened out. He claims he got a massive stomach ache or some bullshit. And sure enough, he didn't do it. And instead, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go to like Dominican Republic and just hang out there. And I was like, yeah, okay, you're full of shit. You're not really down for the cause. So I really thought that he was going to go there, meet her, have a good time. He would have been traveling further than he's ever traveled before. And I really thought he was going to go do it. And then he just absolutely shocked me, and he killed the whole idea of the trip. So I was like, listen, okay, well, it's not my loss, and it's not for me to tell you what to do, but I'm really disappointed. I didn't tell him this, but I was just really disappointed in him for not going to meet this chick. And that's what happens a lot of times, because some of these dudes will come and meet with them. Some of these dudes just keep talking to them online and leading them on, and it could cause issues. Some of these women, however, they take advantage of these guys. They try to ask them for money, try to ask them to send them stuff through Western Union and money through Western Union. And some of these dudes are weak enough to do it, But let's see what happens with this Finnish guy.
Philippines.
We spend Christmas and New Year in Boracay. I feel it that he loved me also, and his intention is, to get to know more me and going to a, serious more, or maybe married someday.
That future crumbled after his vacation had ended. He returned to Finland, and she found out that he'd been in a relationship with another woman there. This love story...
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If this dude is traveling from Finland to go there, so you're talking about like this is a 5,000-mile trip or something like that, right? It's like, y'all were just talking online. You've already got another man's kids. I think it said she's a single mother of 3, if I'm not mistaken. He came there he probably didn't know the lay of the land. He basically wanted somebody to hang out with. So he basically got the girlfriend experience while he was there. Now, I don't know how the dating went and how everything went when how you treated him while he was there. You showed him around and everything. But these women are out of their minds if if the average one of them thinks that if they've got another man's kids, that some dude, some Superman is going to come and whisk them off their feet and just up and marry them, despite the fact that she's walking around with all that baggage from that previous world. They're out of their minds. They're literally out of their minds. And it's sad that something like that happens. Now, I hope they had a good time, but the thing about it is she's really being unrealistic here. It's like she's got another man's kids. Most dudes don't want to deal with that. Now, there are some dudes who, for whatever reason, don't mind dealing with that, but most dudes do not want to deal with that. So basically, he came down there, he blew her back out, he got the girlfriend experience, he probably took her, cheap dates to Jolly Bees or whatever, but he was blowing her back out every night, probably every morning too, because that's what happens when you go to the Philippines. It's like you're getting it nonstop, let me tell you. And he blew her back out. And, hopefully, he took her to a nice resort or a hotel. So he wasn't in the house, or her house, I should say. Hopefully he wasn't there because, you don't want the kids hearing that through the doors and, through the walls. But that's what happened. He got the girlfriend experience and he went back to Finland. Finnish women, a lot of them are gorgeous, So, basically this chick was ice skating uphill. It's like if you didn't have this other dude's kids, you might have had a better opportunity to say, yeah, maybe we'll build a relationship. But this guy wasn't trying to hear that. He just came there, got the girlfriend experience. He blew you back out, took you to Jolly Bees. He fed you like you're a pet. And, then after that, he was like, yeah, baby, I got to pack my bags. I'm out. That's what it is.
Awry points to a darker side of the Passport Bro movement. Many of their preferred destination countries, like the Philippines and Thailand, have a long history of sex tourism and exploitation.
Oh, okay. So you already know where this is going. Yeah. They're never going to talk about the Passport Bros who get married. They're never going to talk about all of the men who've gone to these countries, met with these women, and actually decided to marry them. They're never going to talk about that. In fact, I'm starting to see, I'm looking at the chapters below, and there's no part of it where they talk about, they don't make documentaries about marriages that go on between these. And there's a lot of these dudes who are literally going over there looking for wives. They don't talk about any of that. They're talking about the handful of women who got their backs blown out. And they got taken to Jolly Bees. You got her like a chicken Big Mac, and you got her like some spaghetti, and you fed her like she was a pet. That's all they want to talk about. And the reason why these men are going to these countries is simply because it's cheaper. And we're not, even if you took sex out of it entirely, it's cheaper to go to these countries. It's like when you go to Bali, you can have a nice resort, not far from the airport, DPS, not even far from the airport. Beautiful resort, right next to the beach. You've got huge pools, quiet environment. It's zen-like. Even if you took the sex out of the picture, you'd still have a great time, and it's only like $50 a night. It's like, that's the reason why these guys go to these countries. You don't see anybody lining up to go to America looking for women. And there's a lot of countries, you got to remember, if you're in Europe, their money is worth more than ours. So when they come here, it's actually cheaper for them to come here than it is for us to go to their countries. You don't see them coming here looking for women. Why the hell would they do that? The women here are a nightmare. So take sex out of it entirely. You don't see them coming here looking for a good time. There's nothing to do. I live in New York City. What are you going to do besides come here to see the Empire State Building, come here to see the Statue of Liberty, come here to see, MoMA, the museum. There's nothing to do here. Meanwhile, I go over to Bali. They got all types of water sports for cheap. They got all types of resorts for cheap. They got so much to do. It doesn't make sense to come here. So if you're going to talk about the developed countries, yeah, nobody's trying to go there. The developed countries are the same problem. The women are living on a level where they feel they don't need the men. Look at South Korea. The women have the 4B movement saying, yeah, that they refuse to even sleep with or have children with or have relationships with their own men. Why the hell would you go there? Now, here's the thing. That only applies to their men. That doesn't apply to the passport bros. These women will tell you in a second, oh, yeah, I like them big, dark, and handsome, and tall, dark, chocolatey men. They'll tell you that. I'm posting videos of it. The women, they're telling you that shit. Of course the guys are going to get their passports to go to these countries. You call it whatever you want. Don't worry about it. Get your mind out of what a man does with his pee-pee.
Poorer countries have been sexually exploited for so many years.
Dr. Marjorie Holmes. Now, you could tell, like, I have to wonder, because the thing about it is Dr. Marjorie Holmes used to be a younger woman, right? There's a good possibility she might have gotten her back blown out by passport bros or passport Joes. There's a good possibility about that. But the reality is she's talking about sexual exploitation. Their own men do the same shit in their own country. So why are you worried about the foreign men doing it? At least you have a chance to get more money. Dr. Marjorie Holmes right here, she might have gotten her back blown out. She was taking the Jolly Bees. He got her a chicken special, got her some spaghetti, and that was it. Now she's upset about it because she thought that it was going to lead to marriage. It didn't. But I don't know. So what she got to say? Hold on.
Just now, ours, Spanish, the friars, etc. The Filipinos have been sexually exploited.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that the Spanish exploited your country. I'm not going to argue with that. I totally agree. But we're not talking about the Spanish. We're not talking about these people. I'm talking about the passport bro. You see, this is what I'm talking about right here. Here you are lumping in all this fucking Spanish colonialism. I'm a black male in 2024 with a passport and with money. I'm not talking about the Spanish conquistadors. I'm not talking about that. This is my problem. They lump in all this bullshit that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with my people. My people are black men getting their passports to come to your country to meet wives. This has nothing to do with the Spanish conquistadors. This has nothing to do with British imperialism. This has nothing to do with any of that. But y'all keep lumping in all this shit. And you keep obfuscating my entire point. Like, you're obfuscating my entire point. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is right here what I'm talking about.
Idea about sexual exploitation is not limited to passport bros. But of course, in any movement, you always find the ones that take advantage.
I think those are very fair criticisms, and men do that. Passport bros, there's a lot of guys coming over.
Nope. Okay, so this is where I'm going to end, because I'm sick and tired of seeing this dude. There's so many real passport bros right now, even check in effect. He's got video right now from, from Thailand. And he was doing a live video from Thailand. Every time I'm looking at passport bros, this dude is trying to get his name in there. Austin Abet. It's like, no. Here's my question. When are they going to talk about Austin Holloman? I don't understand that. Like, you're worried about Austin Abet. Why aren't you talking about Austin Holloman? This is exactly my point. And what it leads to is it leads to obfuscation. It leads to them talking about sex tourism. It leads to them talking about crimes committed by these Joes. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the reason. This is what I'm talking about. You can't allow your narrative to get hijacked by these people, and that's exactly what's happening. It's really deflating. It's disgusting. It's really, really disgusting. And this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. So I'm going to just skip all of that because I'm not interested in Abetya at all. Let's see. Growing inequality in Southeast Asia, the impact of dating apps on romantic pursuits, and it says how the gender divide has affected the U.S. presidential election. Oh, God,
Ladies and gentlemen, today is an important day for everyone who owns Ethereum. My name is Vitalik Buterin, and I am the founder of Ethereum.
Still pimping XRP, right?
The gender divide played out at the ballot box in November.
All right, you know what? Before that bullshit even starts, let me just say it like this. Donald Trump did not win because of the gender divide. Donald Trump won the moment gas prices exceeded $5 back in 2021. Donald Trump won when orange juice became damn near unaffordable. Donald Trump won when eggs hit $7 a carton. Donald Trump won when milk prices went up. It's funny. I bought orange juice because right now you can probably hear me coughing in the background. I came home. What was it? I came home Friday night and I had the flu. I absolutely had the flu. I had body ache. I had the chills. I was laying in my bed. It was warm, but I had the fucking chills. I had body ache. I had diarrhea. And I went to Walmart to get what is it called? Severe cold and flu. What is that stuff called? Severe cold and flu cough suppressant. I forget what brand it was, but I went NyQuil and DayQuil, right? So they're charging $20 for the DayQuil NyQuil pack, right? Orange juice, they're charging damn near $8 a gallon of orange juice. Now I bought a gallon of orange juice yesterday. I pretty much drank about half of it. And I'm thinking to myself, people rebelled against Biden's administration. Harris was an incumbent along with Biden. And people rebelled against that. Like, if Biden had been doing a good job, Kamala Harris would have won. Biden was doing a shit job. He was busy fighting wars with giving the Israelis weapons to blow up them Gazans. He was busy fighting over in Ukraine. And people got tired of it. People were like, wait a minute, you're giving my money away to fight your bullshit wars that are not in any way increasing my standard of living here in America. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, my standard of living is going down. When they talk about inflation, they always talk about price gouging and prices going up. That's not what inflation is. Inflation means that the value of your money goes down because they've printed more money and expanded the money supply. But they don't talk about that. What they want to say is they want to say that somebody's price gouging. This is the reality. Nobody was price gouging, except maybe Stellantis when they were trying to charge like $130,000 for a Hellcat that's played out. That was price gouging. Nobody else is price gouging. The whole point of these corporations is to figure out how to give you a product that strikes a balance between quality and cost. We make the final decision and we say, okay, I'm willing to buy this product because the cost is right about where I need it to be and the quality is right about where I need it to be. You're not going to get the best of the best for a low price, but you will get a decent product for a decent price. Kamala and Biden, their economy was horrible. Just because they felt that in the 11th hour that they were going to swap Biden with Kamala and anoint her president, nobody was going for it. So for them to even try to, first of all, you have to wonder, how does the U.S. presidential election play into the passport bro movement? Because had they done this documentary, if you want to call it that, had they done this 3 months ago when everybody else was talking about passport bros, or even a year ago, there would have been no results on the presidential election. They wouldn't be able to say anything about it at all. This has nothing to do with the passport bros movement. The passport bros are all about the economy. We go to countries that are less expensive, not more expensive. We go to countries where we can meet women that For one thing, we can actually take on dates and we don't have to worry about it costing us a goddamn arm and a leg. Have you been into any American restaurants lately? It really will cost you a fortune to go to and then they're looking for a tip. They're always looking for tips. And it costs you a fortune just to eat basic food. Like if you want to go to White Castles, they're looking for fucking tips. It's like I just bought a dollar hamburger slider and you're looking for a tip on that? Are you kidding me? Listen, this had nothing to do with sexism. This had nothing to do with racism. Were there sexist and racist voting? Absolutely. But the overall election, this was nothing to do with sexism, nothing to do with racism. This was about the economy. Had Biden's economy been going great, Kamala would be president right now. Had Biden not lied about not seeking re-election, and had he said, you know what, I'm going to bow out. I'm going to put Kamala to be president a year ago, and you would have had President Kamala sitting in office up until this election, and maybe America would have softened up to her a little bit. He didn't do that. He lied and lied and lied and lied. While they're busy counting Trump's lies, Biden's busy lying. While they're busy counting how many, Trump has lied 679 times. While they're busy counting Trump's lies, Kamala's telling you that Biden is physically and mentally fit. While they're busy counting Trump lies, MSNBC is telling you that Biden is sharp as a tack. While they're busy counting Trump's lies, CNN is telling you that he's in his best form. Well, who was I watching? It was it Lawrence O'Donnell? And Lawrence O'Donnell, Biden, he's looking better than ever before. Then you see him on the debate stage and he has no protection from Trump. And then you see this fucking guy's demented. This is what I'm talking about. So you're busy counting how many times Trump lied. You're not busy counting your own. I have a problem with that. So bottom line is, whatever they say about the election, I can care less what they have to say. But I don't take this shit seriously anyway. But I really don't care what they have to say. I'm sorry.
Observers have linked the victory of President-elect Donald Trump to his campaign strategy that targeted disaffected young male voters.
Okay, if they want to say that he targeted disaffected young male voters, then what they'll do is they'll point to the fact that he went on Joe Rogan's show. And what I've also noticed them trying to say is that young males tend to get a lot of their political information and their news from right-wing sources. And they're trying to say that Joe Rogan is right-wing. Some people I know basically just took one look at him and said he's a racist white man. Joe Rogan used to basically be a leftist until they pushed him away. And whatever you consider him to be now, the one thing I don't get from him is I don't get the feeling of him being a racist. I don't get that feeling from him. But these people, they take one look at him, he's a bald white man like Bruce Willis, and they're like, oh yeah, he must be a racist. It's so disgusting, the Democrats and their identity politics. It's really disgusting. And then you have to think about it. If the Republicans were able to pick up so many blacks, 20% voted for Trump, and they were able to pick up so many Hispanics, then you kind of have to think, if they're picking up working class non-whites, and the Democrat Party is supposed to be the opposition party, then you have to think, well, what are they opposing? Are they opposing the working class, saying that we like this party over here more than you because you've fallen into corporate donor money and all you're doing is serving the desires and the demands of the corporations? Now, I'm not going to say that the Republicans don't do that too, but the thing about it is, at least they presented themselves better to the working class. The working class said, yeah, well, we're tired of what the Democrats are doing to our wallets, so we're leaving. And that's it. But this is the bullshit right here.
On election day, NBC News exit polling showed the majority of young women voted for Kamala Harris, while young men mostly went for Trump.
They pushed the abortion. First of all, Trump kicked abortion back to the states through the Supreme Court by having Supreme Court picks that basically kicked it back to the states. There was no abortion ban. What it is the states themselves are deciding that they're going to do about it. There's no right to abortion. It's not a bill. It's not part of the Bill of Rights. And it's just what it is. So if you're going to make that a gender issue and you're going to run against abortion bans as a gender issue, then all you're going to do is polarize men. Because if you really think about it, most men aren't laying awake at night thinking about having abortions. They're really not. Most men probably are thinking, yeah, I really would like to have a family. It turns out that aborting and killing children is probably not the best way to go about raising a family because you're not going to really have anybody to raise. So they turned this into a wedge issue and it backfired. The women absolutely did come out for Kamala. It just wasn't enough. And that's just where it is. So you can be upset about it, but you can go kick rocks.
I'd say that the majority of foreigners that I meet and interact with support Trump. They feel that he identifies with their beliefs, their values, much more so than Harris.
I don't know if one of the reasons...
And I also have to say, it's really interesting about Trump, right? If you ask Hispanics how they felt about Trump and Trump's promises to get rid of illegal aliens, most of the Hispanics agreed with Trump. And it shows in the numbers because the reality is these illegal aliens were being sent to their communities. These people stood up and said, you're not going to do that to my community. You're not going to put these people in here. Just because we all speak Spanish doesn't mean that these people are me and they're like me. So the Hispanics stood up and said, no mas. They said, no mas. So that's how Trump won a lot of Hispanic votes. You can't blame him for that because these people literally came out and they said, no, we've had enough. We've had enough. Not to mention them not being able to afford normal things that they'd have been able to afford because the economy soured. So whatever. It's like they're going to try to keep pushing their narrative, but the important thing for us to do is to keep pushing back.
Since the passport bro / movement towards...
I have to wonder when I look at Dr. Marjorie Holmes, I have to wonder how many times did she get her back blown out by some foreign tourist. I wonder if it could have been like one of these dudes from Australia. It could have been one of these dudes from the UK. But you almost got to wonder. You got to wonder if she was riding that carousel. You got to wonder because you never know. She might have done some shit when she was younger. You never know. Like she's old now. But you never know. She might have been a rough rider back then. You never know.
Additional roles is also affected by or affects how the world seems to be voting for populist leaders now. Bolsonaro in Brazil, Duterte in the Philippines, even Trump. But obviously, something isn't working. Right now, the most comfortable thing for many people to depend on, perhaps, is like a populist.
It's not just a populist that they're depending on. They're depending on populists who are echoing their feelings. No matter what you say about Trump, Trump was talking about how bad the economy was regularly. Kamala was doing her best to run away from how bad the economy was doing. She didn't even want to talk about it because the problem now is, how do you run against yourself? You're the one in office. You're under Biden. How do you run against yourself? You can't. So ultimately, Kamala, there was nothing she could do. I keep saying the same thing. When Sarah Palin was running with John McCain, and Sarah Palin realized that John McCain wasn't willing to go as far as she was, what did she do? She separated herself from him by, quote unquote, going rogue. If you remember that whole bullshit about going rogue. So Sarah Palin understood. She's like, yeah, I want to call Obama a terrorist and I want to say he's palling around with terrorists, but John McCain's not going to do that. So I have to go rogue and differentiate myself from John McCain. A lot of the people who voted for the McCain-Palin ticket did not vote for John McCain. They voted for Sarah Palin. They believed that John McCain was going to die in office and Sarah Palin would be the first president, or the first woman president. That's just not what happened, ultimately, historically, but that's what it was. So a lot of the people who voted for the Biden-Harris ticket believed that Biden was either going to withdraw or possibly, be sick and have to leave. They thought that they were going to end up getting a Kamala Harris presidency. I believed it too. I really believed that Kamala Harris was going to end up being the first female president. But it didn't pan out that way. She was unpopular, nobody liked her, and she was inauthentic. And that's just what it was.
President or whatever. And it's for very rigid traditional roles.
The tide is also turning in Southeast Asia. A report showed an increase in attitudes that reinforce traditional gender roles and undermine women's rights. For example, education and job prospects are seen as more important for males, while domestic violence against women is viewed more permissibly. Some worry that these societal movements will roll back the progress made by women in Asia.
All right, so the bottom line is these cultures have developed, and now, as they've entered the technology age, the digital age and everything, men and women have an equal opportunity in that case to grow and to make money. But the problem ultimately is these men are still focused on getting traditional marriages. And that whole idea of traditional marriage is something that these men, they're not going to abandon that idea, partially because their parents are putting pressure on them to get it. So even if they have to go, these Southeast Asian men, even if they have to go to other parts of Southeast Asia to find wives, or if these Asian men in China and India and Japan and South Korea, even if they have to go down to find Southeast Asian women to make wives, they're going to keep on doing that. They're going to go to Burma, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos. They're going to go to all those countries, and they're going to get them some young, quiet, meek woman. That's their prerogative. We, here in the West, we have ruined ourselves, basically. We've allowed our women to ruin themselves, and we've allowed the women to ruin the men that they were bringing up. It's so sad when you see young men who have no vocational skills. They can't do anything. They can't repair anything. They don't know how to use a hammer and a fucking nail. They don't know how to use a staple gun. They can't do anything. And the reality is, if they had grown up with a father in the home, or if they had grown up with male leadership, they would totally understand how to do these things. I personally believe what's going to happen is the corporations are going to end up taking these young men, training them to do jobs that they need done. And that is going to bring about a vocational uprising. Like, for instance, these corporations, they know that it's difficult to find young men in order to do these jobs. So what they'll do is they'll launch training programs in high schools or colleges or whatever it is, and they will get you and they'll train you to do those jobs that they need done. The only downside with that is a corporation only trains you to do a job that they need done. They don't train you to do everything else that you should know how to do. It's having male leadership that does that. And a lot of these young men are missing out. They can't do much of anything with their hands. It's really sad to see it. And most of it is to blame on these women who have, first of all, put the men out of the houses. They'd never have been able to do that without public assistance. Or what they've done is they've had multiple children with multiple men, and they've let these children basically fend for themselves. It's really disgusting. So, yeah, they're talking about gender-based social norms. That's because these people have built a society that they want to perpetuate. They want to continue what they, like the Singaporean man who gets a Singaporean woman. He wants to keep on building Singapore. That's what he wants to do. The Islamic man who gets an Islamic wife or a Muslim wife, he wants to keep building what he's building at home. He wants to keep building a Muslim family. The problem in America is I don't think that the men want to build anymore. That's the ultimate problem. Now, we've strayed way off from just talking about the passport bros, but that's partially because that's what they did in this video. But I'll say it like this. If the men really wanted to continue building and perpetuating what they have here, then this wouldn't be a problem. The reason why they're leaving is because they don't want to continue building what they have here. They don't want to build anything with these women. They don't trust these women. They look at these women and think of them as nothing but flaws, hussies, gold diggers. They don't like what they see. Now, you can't blame them for that, simply because it's their right to choose who they're going to be with. If they decide that they don't want to be with some aging, gold digging, hussy or whatever, they have every right to get their passport and go to one of these countries and get a younger wife who's going to sign on to their plans and say, yes, honey, I will help you build a family, you know. But these women here, they're disgusted by that because they refuse to be that, and at a certain age, they can't be that anymore. So they can't compete with these foreign women. They can't compete with these women at all. They have no opportunities to compete with these women at all. So, again, this is a gender war, and that's the bottom line. And this is what it comes down to. It's competing ideologies, and that's it. So, take it or leave it. So, basically, I'm done with this video because you already see it went way off the rails. I mean, they're talking about everything, be it the presidential election. That's got nothing to do with the passport bros. That's got nothing to do with them at all. But this thing went way off the rails, and you're expected to take it at face value. I don't. But this is where we are. So I haven't really seen too much more passport bro information or news come out lately, because usually it's something that spikes during the summer months, since that's when you get like lots of photos and pictures and videos of passport bros having a good time. But the bottom line is, get your passports, go overseas, experience life outside of America before you make any final decisions here, because I guarantee you, experience life outside America, that'll change your life.
ก็มีความไม่เท่าเทียมด้วยตัวของมันอยู่แล้วครับเรื่องของความสัมพันธ์ภายใต้ร่มของชายเป็นใหญ่หญิงไทยหลายๆคนก็ยังคุ้นชินกับสถานภาพทางเศรษฐกิจสังคมที่ไม่เท่าเทียมคุ้นชินกับการที่จะต้องพึ่งพาเพศชายแม้ว่าการศึกษาผู้หญิงสูงกว่าแต่ยังมีความรู้สึกเรื่องของภาวะที่ยังต้องเป็นแม่และเมียอยู่ในขบวนการของ Passport Bro เนี่ยมันค่อนข้างเป็นประเทศที่เป็นมหาอำนาจเดินทางเข้ามาสู่ประเทศที่กำลังพัฒนา
And that right there is what it's all about. Even though these women have higher education, these women still feel the traditional role. They feel that they need their men. And that's the reason why men are still going to these countries looking for these women. So that's basically it right there.
So po, mas better if you bring faith in the States and you're gonna work there. Maybe yes.
But the issue is how. Because in America, I'm homeless. I don't make enough money to afford to live anywhere.
So sad.
Yeah.
我们今生注定是沧桑。I gotta learn Chinese. 不知来要笑日走过呀。To be continued.